On this edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum podcast, Sherm Chester along with Jay Pinsonnault from the Seacoast Media Group, and again, his byline and all the local papers, the Portsmouth Herald, Exeter Newsletter, Hampton Union, Foster's Democrat, and of course, where I get all my sporting news, seacoastonline.com. Well, Jay, the baseball standings, well, we still have some games left. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty, though, the final few games before we get to the tournament. But for schoolboy baseball, it is kind of sort of decided the 1, 2, 3 at this point, I would think. Correct?
Yeah, as it's kind of funny that here we are going into the final week of the regular season, and we're talking nor'easters, and I'm wearing a winter hat here. It's crazy, but yeah, Division One baseball certainly played out as a lot of people expected as we go into the final 2-3 games for most teams. Pinkerton's the only undefeated team. They're at 16-0. They beat Goffstown, and Goffstown, that's their only loss of the year. And that score was 8-1. So Pinkerton really solidified themselves as the number one team in at least during the regular season. And then you have both Exeter and Londonderry at 13-3, and then Trinity's at 11-3. So I think I think those are the clear top 4 or 5 schools this year. And then just outside that top 5, you got a handful of teams right bundled up there with Portsmouth and BG and Bedford and Dover. So I think any one of those 9 teams can make a run to the championship game. But I think based on what we've seen so far in the regular season, it's Pinkerton's season to lose, and I think they would have to be considered the clear favorite to defend their title and come away with the win next month at the Fisher Cats, whoever they play. So they get a great starting pitcher in Leo Boucher. He's going to Penn State next year, and they're just strong up and down the lineup. And I think Pinkerton is definitely the team to beat going into the postseason here, which begins here quickly in just about 10 days. So one more week of the regular season, then we get into the playoffs.
And then it gets down and dirty, so to speak. And hopefully the weather, as you said, we don't need any more nor'easters. You don't need a nor'easter in May for sure.
Oh.
And let's get back to Pinkerton for a second. Now, you go into the season with hopes that you're going to be the top dog.
Yep.
And you have to play this year, which was this is a good thing. I'm glad they did get to play Exeter, which they didn't last year. It was decided basically on strength of schedule that they were the top dog. This year they did play Exeter, defeated them. Pinkerton defeated Goffstown. Goffstown defeated Exeter. So right now you got like a 1, 2, 3 setup. But even then, again, we said there's some games left. Anything could happen. But back to Pinkerton. If they do end the season undefeated, do you think that's an advantage or a disadvantage from your personal viewpoint?
Well, I think it's a double-edged sword where some teams, you talk to some coaches and they say they'd rather, they want to win every game, but if they go into the regular season or if they go in the postseason undefeated, the pressure is more apparent than it would have been if they lost a couple games during the year. And sometimes a loss is good, where it knocks down the pegs of a couple kids who maybe think they're too good and they just have to show up and play. So maybe a loss is good sometimes. I've heard both ends of that argument, and I know Bruce Joyce, when we covered that game on Monday at Exeter, it was a great pitching duel between Boucher and Campanicki, and Exeter lost 3-1. But Bruce Joyce really thought that Exeter had their chances, and they're certainly not afraid if they were to play again. And I believe it was either Finn Adams or Mike Carron. I can't remember who it was, but 2 seniors on the Exeter team. One of them told Brandon Brown at the end of the game that we want to see these guys again. There was one instance Exeter had the bases loaded with nobody out, and then Boucher just does what he does. He goes, all right, I'll get out of this by myself, and he struck out the next 3 guys and got out of the inning. Where if you have the bases loaded with nobody out, you're expecting to at least get one run across, hopefully more than that. But for Pinkerton to escape that battle and get out of that inning with no runs certainly gave them some momentum. They carried it for the rest of the game. But Panicki pitched well for Exeter, and 3-1. That's that is the second fewest runs Pinkerton has allowed this year. They beat Memorial, surprisingly, one of the not one of the strong teams this year. Pinkerton only beat them 2-0 back last week. So Exeter held Pinkerton to second lowest run output of the season. So they're not afraid of them, and I think I still think Exeter has a very good chance to be one of the two teams playing for a state championship, and it's going to be fun to see how this all plays out here once the playoffs get going here in a couple weeks.
I think for a good coach knows when there's nothing there. I mean, when the arm's tired, when the player's tired, just the umpire isn't cooperating. It's just he's being a little picky that day, maybe, and whoever's on the mound isn't going to get it in his favor. It's one of those things where I think it's going to be an interesting how they shake up with the pitching matchups. Do you know if there is a bye that's going to happen in the Division I?
From what I believe the number one seed gets a bye. It's a 15-team tournament. So the second seed plays 15, 3 plays 14, and so on. So if I understand correctly, Pinkerton right now, the number one seed would be the only team with the first round bye.
Yeah, see, I would like to see it balanced because it does give them a little leg up as far as the pitching.
Oh, it does, certainly does. Yeah, because now their number one pitcher's most likely facing their first opponent, their number two pitcher.
Right.
Unless I've seen also sometimes coaches roll the dice and throw maybe their number two in a game where they think they can win, playing their number two and save their number one for the next round, which backfires sometimes, but also on other times it pays off. So
it can work both ways. You're right.
Yeah.
If you don't start your ace, you can always use him in backup and relief if you have to.
If needed,
Yeah. And now, what about the other divisions, 2 through 4? Do we have anybody that you're keeping an eye on there?
Yeah. What's interesting this year, Sherm, in Division 2, St. Thomas, who's been historically one of the stronger programs over there in Division 2, led by former Exeter and professional baseball player Carson Cross. They're down this year. They're 6-10. The only local Seacoast team in Division 2 besides St. Thomas is Oyster River. They started 8-0. They've lost 4 of their last 5, and now they're 9-5. So I really don't think there's anyone in Division 2. Division 3, we have Somersworth, and they're a 500 team. And then Division 4, you got Newmarket, our friends over our neighboring town there, over in Newmarket. They're 11-3. They've played, I think, in the last 4 or 5 Division 4 state championships. I believe, if I remember correctly, they won last year. So I would give them a chance in Division 4, but I don't think there's a legitimate state championship contender from the Seacoast, at least, in Division 2 or 3. And I really think Exeter is the lone of our 5 Seacoast teams in Division 1 that have a legit chance to contend for a title. Sure, Portsmouth could get hot and get there. Dover has some good players. They could get hot and get there. But Spalding, I don't know if they will even make the 15-team field. And Winnicott is 7-9 with 4 games left. They're still fighting to be one of the final teams to make the playoffs. So I think in Exeter, Division 1, you have Exeter, and I think you have to go down to Division 4 for another Seacoast team to contend in baseball this year with Newmarket.
And I was going to say, one and done. And, that's the one scary thing about the tournament.
Yeah.
And that's, I kind of wish we had a setup, and I know because of logistics, it would never happen because you can't get it scheduled, but at least a 2 out of 3 final.
I know
But
I've brought up this subject with Bruce Joyce and Aaron Abood, the head coach of Winnicott, and they're both in favor of the current format. However, once you get to the championship game, have the championship be a best of three series where sometimes you run into a pitcher in an elimination game like one and done, how it is now. And sometimes if a team has one stud, they may win a championship game. But if you have a 2 out of 3 and you remove their number one pitcher, maybe they don't win the next game. Maybe they do lose the next two and not win. So I think many coaches would be in favor of a best of 3. I don't know how realistic that is. I think it would maybe add one more day to the schedule, or possibly 2 more days. Maybe you could have like a double, like have a single game on the original date and then have a double header if necessary and the next day. But I think that would be a topic that I think a lot of coaches would be in favor for.
I agree with you because again, and it's not a put down on the teams that don't make the top, 4 or 5 positions. Again, it's on a given day. You show up at the field, you play your best game, and you can take anybody out. The tournament itself, and you alluded to the dates. I'm going to give the dates just so people know. On the 5th of June, June 5th, it's the home of the higher seed prelims for Division 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, that's the higher seed. Will have the preliminary game and in time because of weather we don't know.
They
But
always change.
yeah, usually it's around 4 o'clock, and I don't think there are many fields that have lights. And then the quarterfinals will be on the 7th. That's a Saturday at the home of the higher seed. Again, all 4 divisions. And then Wednesday, the semifinals, that will be for Division 1. It's going to be at Holman Stadium, and that is scheduled for 4 o'clock. And for Division 2, it's a Memorial Field in Concord, same date, Wednesday the 11th. For Division 3, it'll be Robbie Mills Park in Laconia. And Division 4, that will be at also Robbie Mills Park in Laconia. Now, the finals, that's the big show, the big day. Saturday, 14th of June, Northeast Delta Dental Stadium, or as I like to call it, Fisher Cat Stadium. All 4 divisions will be playing there. Again, the order to be announced and times as well. Usually it's 10, 1, 4, and 7, I think. That's how they usually schedule it. But again, that people just have to go on the NHIAA.org website and they'll have an update. But as it stands now, usually the first 2 rounds are played in the afternoon at the home of the higher seed. So good luck to all the teams involved, and whether it's Portsmouth, Winnicott, Dover, any of the teams that aren't necessarily in that top tier. You never know. You don't go in saying, "Hey, this is a futile attempt." No, you go in with everything blazing, all guns blazing.
One thing of that championship game, if I could, I think it's a rotating basis where they have the divisions play on the rotating time, and I just think it would be what a day. It's a great day of baseball anyway, but I think you should go in order every year where Division 4 lead things off, then Division 3, Division 2, and always have Division 1, the larger schools in the state, play in that primetime game.
I agree.
Under the lights. I think that would be a make for the perfect ending of a great high school baseball day in Manchester.
Agreed. Are you keeping track at all of the softball on that side
Sure.
of this? Tell us about what you're seeing in Division 1.
Yeah, there's the Londonderry right now is the lone undefeated team. Actually, there's no team. The Londonderry 16-0, and then no school has 1 loss. And then you got Wyndham and Pinkerton with 2 losses, BG at 3, and then you have to go down to 4 losses to find your first Seacoast team with Winnicott. They're tied with Goffstown and Merrimack, and Portsmouth's over 500. Portsmouth won yesterday 30-0. They beat Nashua North. And from what I heard, it could have been much worse than that. And it does sound like a 30-0 is a ridiculous score, but I was told that it could have been much worse, and Portsmouth was intentionally getting outs and to prevent the score from even being worse than that. So, and Exeter's having a down year. I think they've only won 5 games, so I don't think you're going to see a Seacoast team in the softball championship game. But then if you go to Division II, I think Oyster River has a very good chance to go back to their state championship game. Last year they lost to their Route 4 neighbor, Co Brown, in extra innings in the championship game. And St. Thomas, I think this is the year for the St. Thomas Saints, led by former Exeter standout Mackenzie McGrath. I believe this is her 4th or 5th year as head coach over the Saints. They're undefeated right now. They played in the championship 2 years ago. They lost in the semifinals last year, and their senior pitcher, Abby Gaynor, out of Stratham. I think this is the year Gaynor, McGrath, two people with Exeter ties, and the Saints win the Division III championship. And I think Newmarket has a very good chance to win the Division IV championship. So you could see 3 Seacoast champions in the 4 divisions, with Oyster River in Division II, St. Thomas in Division III, and Newmarket in Division IV. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there will be a Seacoast representative in the Division I tournament. But as we said with baseball, once the playoffs start, who knows? We get a final week of the regular season. Injuries could pop up, or some team could get hot at the right time, and that's why they play the games, right? You never know who's gonna. You never know who's gonna win. But
you got to roll the ball out on the field and do something with it. I got the softball playoffs schedule in front of me here. They start a day earlier. The prelims will start on the 4th of June. And again, home of the higher seed. It's for Division I, II, III, and IV. And their follow-up game in the quarterfinals, that'll be on the 7th, Saturday, both in all 4 divisions again. Then we follow into the semis. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Are you familiar with Holderness at all?
It's no, actually, no, I'm not. I was thinking of some other school, but no.
Okay, because the semis and the finals are going to be in Holderness. Now, Division I and Division III are going to have the semis and final at Chase Field in Holderness.
Oh, not Plymouth State this year.
And then they're going to be doing 2 and 4 at D&M Field in Holderness.
So what happened to Plymouth State then?
Good question. That's
where it's always been the last handful of years.
Yeah,
it's always been over at Plymouth State, which is a very nice complex where you got 2 fields back to back, and
that threw me off. That's why I asked if you knew about these fields in Holderness.
And I was talking to Coach McGrath at St. Thomas, and I already told her I'll see her in Plymouth. And she didn't say anything to the contrary. So I wonder if she knows that she better not go to Plymouth if they get there. But nobody will be there.
I was going to say Holderness. I have to admit I don't think I've ever been to the town of Holderness, so I'm not familiar with these fields. But the finals for softball, that'll be Saturday the 14th. Again, in 2 different locations, Chase Field in Holderness. That'll be Division I and Division III. And then same day, Saturday the 14th, it'll be Division II and Division IV at D&M Field in Holderness. So and again, times and teams to be decided. So check out on nhia.org. Before we go to the big boy sports, I did want to add something. I noticed it was in Seacoast Online and the papers. Kudos to the Exeter track team this year. Ladies and the gents, boy, they're breaking all sorts of records. Have you got anything you can tell us about that?
Yeah, they're playing. Both boys and girls having strong seasons by being led by Nate and Laura Smith over there at Exeter. They get the
Seacoast Championship meet at Exeter High School. Nate, the head coach of the boys, thinks that Portsmouth is the favorite for the boys meet, and the Exeter girls are favored in the Seacoast girls meet. So Exeter's had a good year. They've always done well. Hosting a Seacoast Championship meet is always an undertaking, but they get a great facility over there, as you know, at Exeter High School, and I think there's 13 teams competing, and then the state championships a week later. Division I on Friday at Portsmouth, and then Division II a week from Saturday at Sanborn High School in Kingston. And I believe Oyster River girls are the overwhelming favorite to win the Division II state championship this year.
And I'll tell you, I've been reading a lot about the Blue Hawks in the paper, so congratulations. I mean, some people say, gee, you never mentioned other sports, and I know I've been involved now with lacrosse the past few years, and both those teams, boys and the girls, are doing well and should be in the top tier when it comes to the playoffs. So that'll be upcoming next month as well. So, it just is it when you get a good thing going, literally run with it. No pun intended. Well, yeah, pun intended, I guess. I know.
Yeah, the Exeter girls lacrosse having a great year. They're right now they're 12-4. I think the clear favorite in Division I girls this year is Portsmouth, but I would not be surprised at all if you see a Seacoast state championship game between Portsmouth and Exeter. Exeter lost to Portsmouth. I believe that was their first loss of the year. They lost. No, it was their second loss of the year. Exeter lost to them pretty well. It was 22-9. But that just shows how much of a juggernaut Jojo Coro, the head coach at Portsmouth, has that team going. They are the defending Division I state champions, and I believe they're gonna defend that title this year. But again, I would not be surprised at all if you see Exeter, led by head coach Angela Palmer, be there as the opponent for Portsmouth in the state championship game.
And I'm looking at the upcoming tournament schedule for lacrosse. We'll start with the girls first. The prelims, they'll be on the 3rd of June. That's a Tuesday at the home of the higher seed. Quarters on Thursday, the 5th, home of the higher seed. And then the semis, they will be at Bilbao Stadium and Saturday, the 7th. And we wrap things up at Bilbao Stadium. Finals will be on Tuesday, the 10th. That's for Division I. Division II, same dates. The only thing is there'll be home of the higher seed, obviously, first 2 rounds. Then it goes to Stello Stadium on Saturday, the 7th, and Bedford High School for the final of Division II. That's going to be on Tuesday, the 10th. Division III, well, again, home of the higher seed, first 2 rounds. Then it goes to the Bank of New Hampshire Stadium at Laconia High School. That'll be on the 7th. And then they come to Bilbao Stadium for Division III, the championship, on the 10th, again, a Tuesday. The boys, the preliminary round, that'll be on the 5th at the home of the higher seed for Division I, II, III. And then we move on to Saturday. That'll be the home of the higher seed for the quarters. The semis, Bilbao Stadium, Wednesday, the 11th of June. And then the finals for Division I, that'll be on the 14th, a Saturday, at William Ball Stadium. Division II, the semis will be on the 12th, and that'll be at Bedford High School. The final for Division II at Bedford High School on Saturday, the 14th, and then wrapping up Division III. It'll be Thursday, the 12th, at Bank of New Hampshire Stadium in Laconia for the semis, and the final Saturday, the 14th, at the same stadium in Laconia, Bank of New Hampshire Stadium. So just to give folks an idea of what's going on, and as you said, the Division I track meet, that'll be decided on the 30th, weather permitting.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish Mother Nature would just cooperate. I mean, it's been a wet, soggy spring so far, but most of the teams have gotten their games in.
Yeah.
And we haven't had any delays because of thunder and lightning or anything like that. Yeah. I got to ask you about the big boy sports now. Let's go to The Red Sox, since we last spoke, let's see what's happening. Well, they're kind of still muddling along. Um, First base is they've tried to get Devers to take on first base. He told John Henry, no, no thanks. I'm happy at DH, and right now he's doing good things at DH. He's finally got his groove on, and now they want to shift him to first. I wish they'd leave him alone at this point. What about you?
Correct. I think he's agreed. I think Raffy Devers plays his best when he has a clear mind and he's not thinking of anything else. So originally he was kind of upset they wanted to take him off of third base, and then he settles into, okay, I'm just going to DH and be the next big poppy. And then a couple weeks later, Tristan Casas gets that season-ending injury, and they approach him. Hey, let's shift you over to the other side of the diamond. You can play. Grab a glove. We'll get you a first baseman's glove and just go over there. And I don't know, but he has been since his meeting with John Henry in Kansas City a couple weeks ago. He's absolutely been tearing the cover off the ball. I believe he's hitting in the month of May 400 with, I think, 5 homers and 20 RBIs. And at this point, I just leave him there and figure out first. They've had it seems like a revolving door over there, and now they're working out Christian Campbell, who signed a long-term extension right when the season started, but he's been in a slump lately. Who knows? I think sooner than later, you're going to see Marcelo Meyer and Roman Anthony up in Boston somehow, somewhere. But the question with those two guys is, where do you play them? Because the positions they play, they have, I was going to say they have established veterans, but Trevor Story's been in a slump for like a month. Yeah. So how would he be if you take one of your longest tenured MLB players and move him either to second base or move him to the bench, and when you bring up Meyer, but I don't know how that affects the clubhouse, because I think Story's one of those veteran leaders. I think he needs a week off just to reset and bring up Meyer. Then if Anthony comes up, where do you play him? Do you put him in center field? Do you sit down Rafaela, who's been hitting the ball better lately, but he's consistently making great plays in the field? So they got 2 guys in the minor leagues, but they just happen to be playing positions where they're somewhat settled and they don't play first base. And people talk about, oh, you could just have Maya or Anthony play first base. So then you have these 2 rookie or these 2 20-something-year-old kids not only trying to learn how to hit in the major leagues, but also a brand new position. I think that's a little much, and I think that's probably one of the main reasons why they've not called them up to potentially play first, because it's hard enough to adjust to the pitching to the major leagues, and then throw on top of that learning a whole new position. I think that would be too much so early on in someone's career.
And you mentioned Rafaela. I know they were upset with him for not taking the first pitch, especially. And Cora was going John at him from the dugout in one game I was watching, because he obviously told him take the take sign was on. Yeah. I wonder if they're thinking, hey, maybe we could open that up and trade him off for somebody for a first baseman. The example
that's what I was thinking.
The other thing about Major League Baseball, since we last got together, Pete Rose and any of the dead ineligible players from Major League Baseball are now eligible for the Hall of Fame. Rob Manfred, the commissioner, I guess, forgave the sins of Pete Rose, and Shoeless Joe Jackson and a few others may be on that list. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think if I remember correctly, that statement by Rob Manfred was sponsored by DraftKings.
That's bad. I hope you're kidding.
Yes, I am kidding. Yes, but it's both of those players certainly on their athletic skills alone belong in Cooperstown. They certainly two of the best players to ever play the game. And at the time, obviously, they committed, they gambled on baseball, which was against the rules, which it still is. But now it's so prevalent now in the game, and you can bet on anything anywhere.
Yeah.
Where you can be watching a game at a stadium and bet on something. Where I think it's right that they lifted that ban. It's at least in Pete Rose's sake. It's tough that he won't be alive if he is elected. They still have to get voted in. Yes, they're eligible to get in, but they still have to get the votes to get in.
Special committee. Yeah.
Correct. And the votes haven't been there for the alleged PED users like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Alex Rodriguez. Those three certainly deserve to be in the Hall of Fame as well, but they're not getting the votes that is needed to get in because some of the writers are still holding them. Well, they knew what the rules were, and they supposedly violated those rules, and they're not going to get in the Hall of Fame. So I think they both deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Is just if they get the necessary votes by the special committee to allow them into Cooperstown, which I believe they both belong in there.
In 2027 is the earliest that would happen.
Yeah.
That's when the next time the special committee gets together. It'll be interesting because, and I think I mentioned it to you in our last time we got together, that I read a book called Charlie Hustle. New Hampshire author Keith O'Brien wrote it a couple of years ago before the passing of Pete Rose. And it's an interesting book from a lot of angles because he was a complicated guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was a total athlete. And the old school total athlete, the guys that went out there and played no matter what, and
Yep.
Mickey Mantle and those type of that generation, Al Kaline, those guys that went out, played for the love of the game, but also all out. I mean, if it wasn't for injuries, Mickey Mantle, who knows what would have he would have finally ended up with for career records. Pete Rose on the field, can't deny what he did, but on the his personal life and even some of the players that they interviewed that had either played with him or been involved with him as a manager, they all said basically the same thing. It's complicated. Most would say yes, get him in there, but most said it's complicated. Jim Cott was a good example. He was his pitching coach in Cincinnati, and he said Pete was a great guy, and Pete was a great guy and did everything on the field by the book. But his personal life, different animal, different story. And unfortunately, and we know, I mean, in this pop culture world we're living in, we were talking about on our last program that we were together about Coach Belichick and what he's going through in his personal life. And now I understand that we better check out the wedding registry because he's engaged to
He's tying the knot,
Jordan Hudson, and that just gets deeper and deeper by the day. I didn't realize that he was supposed to be on HBO. They do their Hard Knocks program where they focus on usually it's an NFL program or an NFL team, and this year they were going to do UNC because of Belichick, and because Jordan Hudson got her nose into it and wanted to produce it and have final cut and all this other jazz. HBO said thank you, but no thank you. We'll move on. And so he's got himself a live one there.
You saying she's not qualified to do that job, Sherm, or?
Well, in her opinion, she is, but when it comes to the real pros in the business, no, I guess not. I don't understand why the guy, with all the football knowledge he's got, the skills knowledge, he didn't try to get one of those TV jobs. I mean, put him behind a desk with one of those networks. I mean, that would have been a perfect. I know he doesn't have the real vibrant personality, the bubbly personality to play along with the co-hosts, and that's probably part of the problem. He do what he did with most of his interviews if he's mad. Next.
Exactly. We're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, on to Cincinnati. Well, the NFL, are you happy that the tush push is going to be allowed this year?
Yeah, like I was listening to the radio yesterday about that, and it's part of the game now. And if you can't, if you don't like it, try to stop it. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
just stop it, then it'll be fine.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't see what the big brouhaha over that was, other than potentially somebody, a quarterback, getting hurt or a running back, somebody getting just basically pigpiled. The big elephant in the room we'll wrap up before we go to the 2-minute drill with is the Celtics and their ending for this season, just disastrous in more ways than one. Obviously losing Tatum for probably next year at least,
Yeah.
and you have to look at what do we do next because of all this salary cap business in the NBA and the penalties they get if they have too much money floating around. And unfortunately, they just put those two super mega contracts with Jaylen Brown and also Jason Tatum. So I guess question to you is, Brad Stevens, you're in his seat, sitting there, and what do you do with this team? Do you totally let it go, or what do you do?
I tell Joe Mazzulla not to keep shooting threes.
Ooh.
That's like that's the first thing. Like if they shot so many 3-pointers, and even if they weren't making them, they kept shooting them because they said that's what the analytics told them. So you need to adjust on the fly, and if it's not working, drive the ball to the paint. But if I'm Brad Stevens, I try to figure out how to. Obviously, he's going to be under some financial restraints from this new owner coming in. I'm sure he's not going to want to pay the taxes that will be levied against the Celtics for going over the threshold. So I don't know exactly what needs to be done, but I think there's been talks about maybe trading Porzingis, trading Holiday, trading. I saw one idea floated yesterday, trading Jalen and Derek White, and I think the team that you saw win a championship last year will not be back. You may have a couple of players return, but obviously, I think they're going to have to blow it up somehow. And with Tatum going down this year and Jaylen Brown basically playing with a torn meniscus and the injury that Porzingis was dealing with, I would have liked to have seen this team as constructed have a legit chance to defend their title. But with the amount of injuries they had, especially with Tatum getting hurt in I think that was game 4, it wasn't going to happen this year. But I'm sure Brad Stevens is going to pursue any avenue he can to put forth a somewhat contender and see what happens. And I don't think he's bashful if he thinks trading one of the Jays makes the team better for the long haul. I don't think he's bashful of doing that, and I think he will do whatever it takes to make sure the Celtics are competitive and under the financial restraints that's going to be put under him by this new ownership group that's coming in.
2-minute drill time. Anything you got thrown at me?
Yeah, I just think that with the end of the regular season here in high school sports, it's just embrace if you're a parent and a kid, especially a senior, embrace these final few games, because for most, this is the last time a lot of these kids are going to be playing in a competitive environment. And high school sports is what is still great about this country, and playing for your town, playing with friends you grew up in. So as they say, the days are long and the years are short. And I certainly know that, having my one graduate high school, now in college, and still one with 2 years left in high school after this year. So parents and of seniors and seniors, just embrace these final games of the regular season, and good luck in the upcoming tournaments. It's a very special time in their lives, and a lot of these kids don't realize that, and a lot of parents who are dealing with this for the first time, where their oldest is graduating high school and playing sports, and they've never gone through this before. So you're gonna miss these games, and you're gonna miss washing uniforms and when going to make sure they're at practice, and the late dinners after games and practices. So my final take would just be to enjoy these last games and support your team, support your son, but do it in a very respectful, professional, and polite manner, because as we all know, some take it in the other direction. So just enjoy these final days with your kids playing high school sports, if they're fortunate to be playing in a tournament coming up here in the next week.
I'm going to piggyback on what you just said and a previous 2-minute drill you did in our last time around, and you reinforced it this time around about the parents. Something happened to me at a recent sporting event, and first time in 30 years I've had a parent that got into a verbal argument, I guess you'd call it, with the scorekeeper who's sitting right beside me, and yours truly. And it was over his interpretation of the rule of timekeeping in this particular event. It's lacrosse, I'll give you that much. And I'm not going to mention the team or if it was boys or girls, because it really doesn't matter. It was just the fact that this guy got up and started screaming at the scorekeeper that she was cheating. He surprised me. I like I said, in 30 years, I've never had a parent be that vehement about it. And I, obviously I was defending the timekeeper. I said, look, if you've got an issue about a rule, she's doing what she's told by the people on the field. And I pointed to the officials on the field, the ones in the striped shirts. If you got an issue, go talk with them. And he, we'll leave it at that. He said something back at me that I just laughed it off. But on the other hand, it was uncalled for. It totally was uncalled for. His way of handling business, and probably me letting it get to me. But afterwards, I've added, and before each game, I say, to the obviously athletes, please show good sportsmanship. And then we ask the parents to do the same thing towards the team they're supporting, the opposing team, the officials. Okay. So now I've added a line. Disorderly conduct will not be tolerated. First time in 30 years, Jay. I've never seen that, somebody fly off the handle like that. Back to your point, enjoy the days you're on the field and do the best you can. And hey, good things can happen.
Yeah. Yep.
Take those memories with you. About does it. I got that out of my system. So on behalf of Jay Pinsonnault, you can read Jay's byline in the Portsmouth Herald, Exeter Newsletter, Hampton Union, Foster's Democrat, but where I get all my sporting news, seacoastonline.com. This is Sherm Chester inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum podcast.